When economic uncertainty hits Turkey, whether it's creeping inflation or a fluctuating currency, investors have a deeply ingrained reflex. They look to gold as a primary safe harbor. It is incredibly easy to own. You don't have to maintain a gold coin, you'll never have to chase down a tenant for rent, and you can secure your savings with fractional amounts of capital. Real estate sits on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. It is a massive, highly illiquid asset class. Buying a property requires significant capital, heavy transaction fees, and active management. If you look at today's financial climate, characterized by soaring financing costs and high interest rates, logic suggests a heavy asset like property should be losing out to highly liquid alternatives. Yet, when we dig into recent survey data, Turkish investors are doing something entirely unexpected. The Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey tracks investor mindset through its Household Expectation Survey, giving us a real-time look into market psychology. This chart tracks household investment preferences from April 2024, showing a 15.4-point gap between gold and real estate. But through the summer, real estate surges while gold drops. By August, the gap closes to just 4.2 points, a 73% contraction in 4 months. This sharp convergence tracks a sudden pivot in market expectations, long before billions of lira actually change hands. Expectation always moves first. Turkish investors aren't giving up their historical affinity for brick and mortar. They are rewriting the rules for how they value it. For decades, the dominant strategy in the Turkish property market was a cultural reflex. Buy the concrete, wait a few years, and watch your wealth grow. Years of high inflation rewarded this passive approach. Even poorly selected, poorly located buildings gained nominal value, making raw capital appreciation the only metric anyone actually cared about. Today's economic reality has erased that margin of error. Expensive credit, robust mutual funds, and high deposit interest rates offer serious, low-effort returns. Investors can no longer afford to ask, what will this property be worth in 2 years? They have to ask a much harder question. Why should my capital sit in this specific building instead of generating guaranteed yield in a bank account? The promise of future price hikes is no longer enough to close a deal. A property must justify its price tag through real-time, measurable financial performance. Investors now treat commercial properties as active income-producing businesses, rather than static slabs of concrete. This graphic shows 2 identical commercial buildings on the same street. On paper, both carry an appraisal value of 50 million lira. Raw valuation completely obscures the actual investment grade. One building might have a long-term corporate tenant, flexible usage, and low maintenance, while the other is saddled with weak lease structures and mounting structural costs. Then comes the overlooked risk of liquidity. The first building might find a new buyer in 3 months. The second building could lock up your 50 million lira for 2 years while you wait for someone willing to take on the burden. We see this playing out right now across highly fragmented micromarkets like Izmir. Because an industrial logistics hub, a central office district, and a coastal retail space behave completely differently, judging an asset by a generic regional price per square meter is virtually useless. 2 properties with identical paper values can possess opposite true investment grades, dictated by their yield and their liquidity. It is easy to look at these stringent new demands and assume the Turkish real estate market is dying out. We are actually watching a rigorous fundamental market correction, one that punishes bad assets and rewards functional ones. If a property is poorly located, dysfunctional, or overpriced, it will stagnate on the market indefinitely, absorbing capital until the asking price aligns with economic reality. Gold remains a frictionless asset, but holding real estate now requires a level of operational strategy that didn't exist in the era of easy appreciation. Despite all these new complexities, nearly 37% of Turkish households still target property as their primary investment, proving it remains a foundational tool for wealth preservation. Determining success no longer depends on whether you buy property, but on which property you choose.